Oh,
she's back.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Woke Blokes podcast. Ryan Hassan from the Centre for Healing here, joined as always by Nick Sutherland from Myndfit. Nico, how are you today?
I'm feeling very fit in my mind. How are you feeling?
Oh, you're really repping your own brand, aren't you?
I'm embodying it, man. I've got to practice what you teach. So no, I'm feeling good. It's been interesting. I'm stoked because you're back. You're living in the local area. You're just down the road, so that's got me all up and about.
I know, mate. Just down the road now.
But yeah, works flat out. Yeah, I know, and beautiful. Ripping the lid off a few sherbets and watching the sun go down. So, and getting out on the golf course a bit more with you. So, yeah, welcome back. Yeah, work's just flat out. Work's just gone. It's like someone's turned the tap on, and it's like every day there's a couple of blokes ringing up, and it's all men at the moment, just going, hey, so yeah, my mate's been saying, can I come and have a chat? Need to do some work, got this going on, that going on. So yeah, we're pumped at the moment, which is great, and I'm excited about today's guests. First for Myndfit.
There's going to be four of us today. We're having a foursome, I know.
He's in the fishbowl.
When we're not on the golf course, it's a different kind of foursome.
I know, right?
But before you introduce the guest, Nick, just a question just on what you said. I'm finding the same thing. I'm very busy, and I've kind of found that in previous years around this time of year as well. Is that something you've seen as well? Like this time of year tends to get busier for us?
No.
Okay, good chat.
It's going to be a great chat.
Yeah, good chat. Yeah. I don't know, man. No, I don't really tend to. Yeah, I don't.
It's
know.
not, or you
Perhaps,
don't know.
yeah.
It's not, or you don't know.
I don't know. I'm ignorant.
All right. Can you introduce our guest then, Nick?
Sure. So our guests today, similar to what I was saying before about heaps of blokes coming in and doing the work. These guys are just your typical Aussie blokes. They're two best mates that work together. One of them came in first and did some work, and then the other one sort of went, might have me some of that, and came in, and then his wife came in and did some work too. So I am honoured to introduce onto the Woke Blokes podcast Cam and Chris today.
Hey,
hello,
welcome, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, very, very excited to be here.
Honoured.
For those just listening and not watching on YouTube, the boys are that close. They've even got the same computer. They're rubbing shoulders. That's so cute.
It's like they are literally slowly morphing into the one person.
They're attached to each other.
Yeah. Is it a healthy attachment?
It's a healthy attachment. Yeah. You have separate wives, but they're the same name, so
Very closely to be the same.
I'm looking forward to chatting today, boys. I'm really excited about kind of this trend that's starting to emerge where there's guys like, and I'm sure the listeners are going to find out today, you guys just really down to earth blokes, blokey blokes, love a laugh and that kind of thing, but are also, open to starting to work on our mental and emotional health and that kind of thing. So I'm really, really excited to dig into that today. So was it Chris or Cam that came in to see Nick first?
Yeah, I came in first and got Chris on board after a few weeks of being there. So
yeah, and how did that come about? What was the process there?
It was the universe again.
Yes, the universe did speak to me. I'd have to agree with that. It's a long story short. I was selling a drum kit on Facebook Marketplace and had a lot of people asking about it, but finally had one serious person come have a look at it, and his name was Nick Sutherland from Myndfit.
And not serious by nature, more serious by wanting to actually buy the drum kit.
Wanting to actually buy it, yeah. And we got talking, and I was on a bit of a search to get some help with my mental health, as I'd tried a fair few things over the years, and I was slowly getting there and working out things. But when I spoke to Nick, everything he was saying made a hell of a lot of sense and was very relatable. And eventually went and saw him.
What was that?
Let's
when he first came in?
And we'll dive a bit deeper into the story because it was funny because I was there at Cam's house. He had a Datsun 200B station wagon in his garage, and that was my first car. So there was all these little synchronicities, and they were standing there chatting. And this is half an hour from where I live, from where Myndfit is, and we're just standing there chatting, and he just suddenly hear this, "G'day, Nick." And we look around. There's this dude running past. It's one of my clients who's been a guest on here, Glenn. So Glenn was just at his missus' house, running past Cam's house while I was there, and then did a lap, and then came back and yelled, "G'day, Nick," again, because I was still there. Like I was there for about an hour and a half. So, and that was funny. And then I think Cam, Danny, your wife sort of kept poking you and prodding you. Are you going to go and see him? Are you going to go and see him? And it took you a while to reach out, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, just quickly on that, on Glenn, he owns 12 Round Fitness or one of the places which I was actually trialing out at the time. And I'm like, there's another synchronicity. And I was like, that's weird. But yeah, so I took Nick's card after our long chat in my garage and him buying the drum kit. And I'm like, I came inside and I said, "Danny, I got to go see this bloke." And she's like, "Yeah, I saw him out there. He even dresses like you." I'm like, "Yeah, we have a lot seem to be a lot in common." And then I'm like, "I'm going to make an appointment with him." And then COVID hit and I used all those excuses that he's probably not working and I'm going to get there. I have every intentions of making the appointment. And then Danny made it the discovery session appointment as a surprise for my birthday, June last year. And yeah, haven't looked back. So she sort of helped me. Come on, you can go do it.
Yeah. It's a classic bloke thing, isn't it? It's like, going to the doctors or something like that. And you're like, yeah, I'll do it later. And then, a few weeks, few months go by. And oftentimes we do just need that little bit of a push, don't we? And like you said, we say probably not working because of COVID, but we know especially after doing a bit of work, we're like, yeah, that was an excuse for me putting it off, wasn't it?
It was because another excuse was at the time I was feeling fine. Like I was okay. So I'd learnt to be reactive. So when I felt crap, then I would go try and figure it out. But if I felt good, I wouldn't be proactive. So that's one thing that Nick's taught us is to be proactive, which helps so much.
It's so important, isn't it? Like what I find with clients is we go through, even my own life, my own history, we go through these ups and downs, these peaks and these troughs. And when we're down in the trough and we're feeling, very negative, we're in a negative headspace and that kind of thing, we really don't want to reach out then because we're in that such a negative place. Our tendency is to want to isolate further than we already are. So we don't reach out. And then we start to come out of that trough and come up to a peak. But the problem is we get to a bit of a peak and we're like, I'm fine now. No problem. It's all good. No problem. Yeah. So we don't get help at either stage. And then because we haven't addressed anything, we end up back in the trough, back in the peak. And then all of a sudden, we look back at our life and go, shit, I've been doing this for years. I've just been doing this up and down without actually reaching out.
Yes. Well, I'd worked out that, we learn about the fundamental pillars. And so I sort of call it your foundations. My foundations weren't very strong, but I'd build on that. And then either little things over time would happen or something big would happen and it would shake me. And because my foundations weren't strong, that's when I'd go down.
Yep.
So now we've learned to have stronger foundations and those fundamental pillars. You can build on that. If something shakes you, you're not going to crumble. You're not going to go down a dark hole.
I love that. So we'll tell the listeners a little bit about those pillars. What kind of things are we talking about here?
I've got to remember them now. So relationships, obviously.
Well, you guys are sorted there.
but
Well,
before we throw Cam on the spot and put him under the spotlight, I guess, you know, when I was creating this framework, I looked back at my life and Haas, you're dead right. You know, things are good. I don't need help. You know, and then we start isolating when we're not feeling great. And coming through the army, I had, you know, so I talk in here about, you know, work, family, friends, hobbies as the four main components, and with a one common denominator. And when we're in a good place, then we're in a position to. But when I was in the army, you know, I blew my knee out, so I lost my job. I couldn't do my work anymore. All my friends disappeared because I was getting bullied and bastardized. And then my family was in Victoria and I was in Darwin, so there was no internet or anything back then. So I felt disconnected from them. And I couldn't run anymore. And running was a huge part of my life. It was a passion of mine. So I realized when all of those things were taken away from me, yeah, that's where I went crashing down. I was very codependent on having them in place to feel good. So I didn't have, as Cam's been alluding to, much of a foundation in place. So when I did the work on myself and everything, then, you know, next time life happened, as it tends to do, and I went through a divorce, I had those foundations much stronger. I'd cleaned out all the dead wood and all the rotting stumps and everything, and replaced it. And yeah, I came through that divorce really clean and healthy. Um, and it's funny how many people keep trying to build and, you know, this life on a foundation that just can't support it. So it keeps falling down, keeps crumbling down, and they wonder why. And then they rebuild it, and years later, then it all comes crashing back down again, and they get stuck in that cycle. So it's a credit to the boys and to people who come and do the work, because they've got that emotional intelligence to realize, oh, it's the definition of madness, doing the same thing, expecting different results. So when they came in, you know, you just unpack it on the whiteboard, and we won't put you on the spot, Cam, but the first of those fundamentals is priorities, and really prioritizing yourself, so you're actually in a position where you can give to your relationships instead of just being in survival needs. So this is where we help people become emotionally self-sufficient instead of just becoming very needy. And then we can enter healthy relationships like the boys have got now. They're not codependent on each other. They're in a very lovely interdependent relationship. So, and that's not just with people, but with things in our life. I mean, you specialize in it with drugs and alcohol and all that sort of stuff. And that's why you and I take a break from things from time to time to see what the health of that relationship's like. And then the last two are probably the most important. You know, our operating system. So how you know, there's a big difference between who we are and how we're operating. So the boys sitting here are amazing, lovely guys, but the way they're operating wasn't reflecting that in a lot of areas of their life or in certain circumstances. And then the thinking styles was the big one, the critical thinking that people were employing, and all these cognitive distortions. And it's, I don't know, boys, how was it when I write that list up and I say, do any of these resonate with you? And all of a sudden you just see their heads going, yep, 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 yep.
Yeah, you look at it and you go, oh yeah, I do that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Everything. It was similar to what Cam said before. I went in and thought I was just okay, was getting through life and I was fine, but Cam saw the writing on the wall, and I used to obviously work with him a lot, and he sort of was planting the seed for a long time because I've naturally been a little bit of a overly stressed person, and I had a bit of anxiety with just general life issues. And at the time, I genuinely believed that preparing myself for the worst case scenario was actually doing a good thing for me. I was preparing myself for every situation. I was overthinking it massively. And after seeing Nick, it was just like, wow, I've opened up all these doors and realized that is not doing anything for me. All it's doing is creating this unnecessary suffering and anxiety. And as soon as I started just letting go and, you know, the situations that I was creating hadn't happened yet. They were never existed in the first place. Once I started thinking, constructively, the anxiety just decreased massively. And I also understand that, life's not perfect. I still have anxiety from time to time because that's a normal, natural human response. And I can take that on and accept it. But at the same time, I'm aware that it's there, and I just have the ability now and the tools that Nick's given us to let that go and just sort of move forward.
So good. It reminds me of the quote, is it Mark Twain or someone? He goes, I've worried about many a thing in my life, most of which, or 95% of which, never happened. And that's what we do, don't we? We prepare for the worst case. We worry about all these what ifs in the future, and the vast, vast majority of them are never going to happen. So it's like, I spent all that energy, I know because I've done it myself for so much of my life. I spent so much energy worrying about shit that never happened. And it's so freeing to be able to just go, I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to think about that. Ruminate over that.
The 5%, that does happen, we can actually handle. We can actually manage.
And it doesn't help us to overthink about that 5% either. We deal with it as it comes.
No, but we're creating this illusion of heaviness and this illusion of it's terrible and doom and gloom and all that sort of stuff. But the reality is most of it never happens. And when it does happen, we're actually like, oh shit, actually handle that. No one died. Still got all my arms and legs. All right, yeah, everyone good. Cool. Let's keep moving forward. So it's just, yeah. It's great to see the boys that are in a...
Yeah, because the worry, that fear sounds fun, ridiculous, but it is a survival mechanism. Yeah, that fear, that underlying worry is kind of like, well, whatever, if this happens, I'm not going to make it through that, right? And it gets as trivial as what if someone at work thinks ill of me, or what if I, get fired from a job, or this friend doesn't like me, and it's like, I'm not going to survive that. So of course you're going to survive that. You're not going to die, but that fear mechanism thinks that we will.
If you listen to Chris, though, he's saying that sorry, Cam, it was just Chris was saying, he kept thinking, preparing himself for the worst case scenario. So he's constant in that survival mode. He's in that fight flight. So it's just adrenaline and cortisol pumping through his system. So he's getting really wound up. And how were you unwinding, Chris? What was your way of unwinding?
I wasn't. I would stay in that space until the problem that I would definitely go home and have a few frothies to relieve some of the anxiety at times. That's definitely one of the other doors that were opened by Nick that I never really realised was a problem at the time. But after having a bit of a chat, had a bit of a unhealthy relationship with alcohol at the time too. So that's another thing that we've worked on. And it's another sort of one of those wow factors that you walk in and you think you're okay and everything's fine, but in reality, it's not about being fine. There's such a better way to live life. Like, why do you want to get through life and just be fine and okay when you've got all these people that can help you and give you all these tools and mechanisms to get through? Like, I genuinely hope someone listens to this podcast and realize if they're on the sort of the fence between going to see someone, I never looked at this as therapy, even though it's cognitive behavioral therapy. I've always looked at it as more of an investment in my own mental health and just having a healthier mind.
Yeah, that's what me and Nick talk about all the time. It's exactly that, Chris. You explained it so well. It's, maybe we need to abandon the word therapy, and just think about it like we would looking after. Nick's put his hand up. Did you? Yeah, we might need to abandon that word because, like Nick's business is called Myndfit, because it's like, we got to keep on top of this stuff and treat it like going to the gym or running or eating healthy or, looking after ourselves in that respect, as opposed to it being therapy. Because a lot of the time we don't eat well or exercise. Some people do, but we don't generally do it because our health is completely fucked. Because it's very hard to actually do it in that situation. We do it because we want to be proactive. We want to keep moving in the right direction. And that's, what we're trying to do with mental and emotional health. And you boys are...
But no one's going to the gym and saying, I'm going to work on my physical health. I'm going to go to the gym today to work on my physical health. They're going to say, I'm going to work on my physical fitness. Yeah. So if we can reframe and start talking about mental fitness, or I did a proposal for a shire up in Queensland, and I said to them, a barrier to doing presentations that is labeling it as a mental health presentation. And I said, so I'd like to reframe it to mental fitness, or even better for me, is a mental wellness presentation. And it's like, let's be mentally well, let's be emotionally well, and what Chris is talking about. The majority of people in the world are just in survival mode, and they're just fine, and they're just okay. It's just head above water, next day, and just coping, and there is such an amazing capacity to thrive instead of just surviving. And I think that's what the boys are experiencing now, is that they're now just, it's like, wow, we can actually thrive, we can excel, we can feel great, not just fine. What is this voodoo magic?
I was as you were saying that. Sorry, Cam, I'll get you jump in, but as you're saying that, I'm like, a lot of people, and maybe myself as well, go to the gym because like I want abs, or I want big guns, or I want like a nice ass or something, right? So I was trying to think about that with mental health, and it's like, look at the Jack neocortex on that guy, or look at her tight little amygdala. I'm like, look at the regulated nervous system over here. Sex sells. Maybe we need to make it sexy somehow.
That's what I was going to say. Like you've made it fun. Like with your physical health, you can, if you want to get more healthier physically, you can make it fun. You can go play soccer with your mates, or you can go for a run with your mates, or go for a run listening to your favorite music. It's hard, but you can make it fun. But with the tools that we learn with Nick, is you can make it fun as well, because you can literally laugh at yourself how irrational you're being, instead of staying in a really bad black hole or negative space or something like that. You can literally take a step back, look at yourself, and just laugh. Oh, geez, I'm being real irrational about that. And it kind of becomes fun. And that's a mental rep that you've done, that you've made fun. So it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. You can make this as fun as you want.
Like
but I think it can be sexy as well, though, Haas, because there's nothing more beautiful about a person than seeing someone confident and comfortable in their own skin, or when someone's compassionate, or when someone's check out the equanimity on that bloke. It's when someone's really calm and composed and present with you and connected. That is a beautiful thing. That is a very attractive quality in people. So, I mean, I know Danny said that, she always thought Chris was a bit rough around the edges, but now he's done his work and nothing's changed, but she's seeing him in a whole new light, and God damn it, it's like rabbits over there now. There's babies going to be popping out left, right, and centre.
Another baby before you know it, mate.
Well, we have had
I know.
Baby since seeing you, so that's there you go.
That was classic though. So Chris and his wife came to see me. Chris sort of was a couple of weeks ahead of Danny, and Danny finished her 12-week program 2 days, I think, before she gave birth, and then sort of came in and brought Yuki, the baby, in after a couple of a week or so later to introduce her to me. And she's like, I don't know how any couple gets through childbirth and becomes parents without doing a program, or without doing this sort of work. She's like, it's so crazy.
I do actually look at that. I actually think back to the birth a little bit and go, I wonder how I would have coped in that scenario without doing the 12-week course, because there was so many things I did in that situation where I was able to sort of kind of live in the reality of what is at the moment and sort of let go a bit, because it was a, pretty full-on experience. And yeah, I do wonder what the difference would be, and it wouldn't have been a good difference, I can pretty much guarantee. So it definitely
it just reminds me of that, fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Go in the pub, tell me when you're done, I'll come back and meet the baby, I'm out.
Pretty much.
Well, we've sort of spoken about this. When my daughter was born, it was quite, the birth was actually quite traumatic for me and Danny. I mean, I didn't give birth, obviously, but without going into too much detail, it was full on, and we're very lucky that she's here today. She's 9 years old now, and everything's all good. But at that time, I think I was sort of in a pretty vulnerable space anyway. Like, we already had a 2-year-old, our son, and I obviously hadn't done any work with Nick back then. And I think I had some sort of post-traumatic stress after that, because we almost lost the baby. Danny was in, there was a threat to her life, and it was a full-on 3 days, no sleep and stuff like that. And then everything was all good, but after that was a slow decline for a few years, where I used coping mechanisms like running. I had to run 10Ks a day to be able to feel good, and I got really skinny and unhealthy, and I slowly went downhill. But so the difference is, I've tried to do it all on my own, but Chris had got the help, so he's got the fundamental pillars and the foundations that it's going to be tough times, but he's going to be fine. Like, he's worked it out.
No, he's not. He's going to be better than fine.
Yeah, better than fine. Yeah, so we talk about that comparison all the time. So it would have been a completely different story for me had I had the education from Nick.
Exactly. I might add as well, like
I think. Sorry, Chris. One of my favourite client stories is when Cam came in one day. It was probably about week 8 or 9, maybe 10. He's like, Nick, it worked. It's worked. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, and he told me this story about coming home from work, and his daughter was a bit cranky, had a cranky pants on, and it was her birthday coming up. Remember that story, Cam?
Yes. Yep.
And so he'd been able to self-manage and self-regulate throughout the day, because work was a big source of stimulus for him to create stress. And so he used to come home pretty wound up, but he came home calm, composed, and then his daughter, he gets home and, hey, my family's here, and his daughter goes, Daddy, you're not coming to my birthday party. And he was just able to. Hey?
I don't think that was me, but we'll go with that.
Wasn't it?
Never said
it
that.
was. It definitely was. It definitely was. Because it was, I remember you telling me, and you were saying, and then you just stayed there, and you just went, oh, that's okay, and you made it about her, because we've been doing all this work around.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Remember?
Yeah, sorry, that was me, but it wasn't her birthday party. She didn't want to go to her. She didn't want to do her dance thing. Her dance.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But you didn't take it personally. You just stayed there and made it about her, and you're like, oh, that's okay. And he said that was the first time you were really able to sit and observe, wasn't it?
Yeah, because the thing is you look at your kids and you want to end their suffering straight away. Like, it's your job to end their suffering. And she'd been working really, really hard on this dance routine, which she needed to, because I think it was lockdown and they were making a video. So we needed to video her doing this dance routine that she'd worked so hard on. She'd choreographed it herself, and it looked beautiful. But she, as kids do, she got in a mood, or was starting to be irrational. And we're like, oh, we really wanted to do this dance. Like, we know she can do it. And it's easy to get to try and get them out of that suffering. But I stood back, let her do her thing, observed it, listened to her. And like kids do, she got herself out of it, and she went and did the dance, and everything was fine. But I can see how some parents find it easy to go, stop crying, stop doing this, you're being stupid, let's just get you going, let's get you doing this dance. But
stop being so irrational.
Yeah, stop being a kid. You're supposed to just do what I say. Yeah,
be an adult.
Yeah, so that was definitely a turning point for me, to be able to step back, observe, and not take it personally, because she's yelling and screaming at you and things like that. And look what happened.
So good.
So So you let go of your attachment to what you think should have happened, let go of your attachment to the desired outcome, and stopped being controlling because you were heightened, and you just stayed calm and composed, and then trusted her that she'd come back around to it, and she did it, and it all sort of turned out in the end. So, but there was a great example of how he didn't need to create this narrative around it, and that means that she's this, and she's a terrible child, and all of that was bypassed, and all of this suffering was bypassed because he just sort of went, yeah, okay, this is just you being you. You're a child. You're meant to be irrational. You ebb, you flow. Yeah, okay, cool. But I trust that you got it, and yeah, so it was a great example. I loved it when it came in, and they're like, "Oh, and how's that?" She said, I can't wait to be like this all the time. I'm like, "Yeah, you've just gone all the way."
2 steps forward.
Yeah.
All right, we've still got some work to do.
Yeah.
It is funny. It is funny looking back. Like I still look back over the notes from the 12-week course, and some of the things that come out of your mouth. You're like, how did I not know that that massive distortion in my head was there?
Spaghetti brain.
Yeah.
It's awareness, isn't it?
It's often,
Yeah, but you can't see the forest for the trees, so you're in it. And Hass is the same. I'm the same. I still get distorted. I still have my things, and that's why I continue to go and see someone once a month, just to have someone running over me, because I know that I can't hear myself all the time. I've worked really hard to try and be conscious of what I'm saying, and in the Eightfold Path in Buddhism, right speech. So I really try and be aware of that. But I still have a human brain, so it's still going to play up from time to time.
The other one I get, it's when a client says, "Can't wait for it to be like this all the time," or they say, "Well, I think I'm fully healed and there's nothing left to learn," and I'm like, "Oh, red flag, red flag."
I'm like, "Oh, so you've reached enlightenment. Oh,
you've reached enlightenment. Yeah. Hello, Buddha. Hello, Jesus."
Throw some glitter at you, and they'll start bowing to you, and
just they levitate out of the room.
Session, Nick said to me, because I was always, the first time Nick asked me where I wanted to be at the end of the 12 weeks, I said that I wanted to be 100%. No anxiety. We both said that, yeah. I wanted to be perfect.
Set the bar high. Yeah, I like it.
Shut that out of me real quick. One of the biggest...
I think I actually stuck my head out of the office and yelled at Shane. I was like, "Hey, Shane, we've got another one in here. He wants to be perfect. He wants to be 100% responsive." And I think that goes back to what Cam was saying earlier. We try and make it a bit light. We try and have a bit of fun with it. And instead of going, "Oh, well, no, that's just completely unrealistic." I think that you shouldn't be like that. It's just let's be playful with it.
And one of the most amazing things of the 12 weeks that I found, as Cam said before, the turning point. I think everyone has a turning point when they're learning this stuff and I think from memory, I reckon it was probably about the 8-week mark for me, where I was working on my mental reps every day, trying to use everything at work, everything in life. Everything was a mental rep. Wasn't always successful. Still got, sometimes the stimulus got the better of me, as it still does. But there was a turning point at about 8 weeks where there was a few triggers that I found myself in that space between stimulus and response, and I was able to observe it and go, "Oh, I'm here. I'm not angry." And yeah, that was the moment that I was like, "Oh, this rewiring your brain bullshit actually works."
Well, it's hard to quantify. It's not like, I looked at my body composition at the gym or something, I can see the improvement. So it's a bit harder to quantify, and I think it's really important what you said, because that seems to be the way to quantify it. When you're in a situation and you remain present and aware, and then you think, "Oh man, I would have flown off the handle at this a couple of months ago. Wow,
well,
this is different."
Change. It's a lifestyle change. It's not a permanent fix. You don't go in there and you just fix. This is just the tools you learn to change your lifestyle and actually be able to respond the way you want to respond, not the way that your mind chooses you to respond. You have a
That's
choice.
a great way of putting it. Your mind uses you to respond.
Yeah.
I was chatting with a client last night. He didn't think he needed to do a maintenance program, and then all of a sudden rings me. Yeah, so that maintenance program. Yeah, I might need to jump on that wagon. And he rings me, and he put it so beautifully. I said, I'm going to borrow this. Thank you for this gift. And he said, it's like, you don't go to the gym, jump on a treadmill, and expect to run through, the handles at the end of the treadmill. It's just you're going to keep going. There's no end point. There's no stop. And that's what this is like. Doing the work. It's you're on a treadmill, but you're going to get stronger and stronger and fitter, and but there's no end point. There's no one day. Oh, I don't have to. Hey,
there's no destination.
No.
Yeah. Well, the destination is getting on the treadmill, and that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Other thing I'll add as well is, like Cam and myself we've always tried to read books and sort of developmental things to try and become sort of better at these sort of stuff. But I will add, none of it really sunk in too well when I was reading it through books. I feel like if anyone else is listening that's sort of, once again, on the fence of trying to go and see someone personally, when you actually sit down in front of someone and put your own life out on the table, everything sinks in so much better. It just works. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Well, it's the difference between intellectualizing it and embodying it. There's no one in the book is challenging you. No one in the book is reflecting to what it is that you're doing on the spot. So it's a great source of theory. It's a great source of information, but it's really hard to take it and apply it because it's not practical.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Like we're tradies, so everything we work off is plans or diagrams. And when someone puts basically your brain up on a whiteboard to show you how it works, you go, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like it's literally drawn out for you. So it's that. It's
that's my brain.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So how do we fix? Well, how do we help prevent that from happening? Yeah.
Nice reframe. Do you hear that, Huss? Instead of fixing, because it's not broken. It's Look at these two go.
I stopped myself there, didn't I?
A+ students, these two.
That's a year of training right there.
It's also, I think, when you start to put your story out there, it's a lot of the, the beliefs, the stories, the narratives that we have about ourselves and what the world's like are all up here, and they've been kind of marinating up here for so many years. Then when also you start to externalize them out to someone else who, if they're skilled enough, will be able to reflect back, then all of a sudden, as soon as the words come out, there's things that you say, and then you can almost just see the words, and you're like, oh shit, is that what I really think about myself? Or is that what I really think about the world? And, a good therapist, when you say certain things, will just stare back at you and you'll kind of be like, yeah, that's bullshit, isn't it? And so you become aware of your own bullshit, your belief systems and all this stuff, which is so much more powerful than a book or anything like that.
Remember Amanda, the Olympian, and she used to say, it's like there's a wire screen on your office door. It's like the no bullshit filter. As soon as they walk through that thing and sit down, it's like they can't hide anything because, and it's 95, whatever percent of what we do is unconscious. It comes from our subconscious. So many people are speaking mindlessly. They're not actually present and conscious of what they're saying. So when you just gently reflect it back to them, did you realize you just said this? They're like, did I? What? No, I wouldn't have said that. And you're like, no, you did. And like, fuck. No, that's not helpful. And then it puts them in a position where they can start, changing and catching themselves. So it's just awareness again.
Yeah. Chris, can you tell me a little bit more? I'm interested in maybe the point of view coming forward and getting help, because Cam he'd been doing a bit of work on yourself. Was it a matter of kind of you seeing some differences in Cam, or was it like Cam going, "Oi, go and speak to someone, go and speak to this guy"? I
was like a lot of people where I was hesitant to do anything, and I thought I was fine and all that, like we said before. But Cam had been seeing the distortions in me for a while, and had given me self-help books in the past.
Read this book; it'll help you heaps.
Yeah, and also he started doing the course with Nick, and I was hearing a lot about it, and he was putting it out there and planting the seed, and then one day basically said to me, "Yeah, I think it's time. You are."
I got him at his most vulnerable. I could see him really struggling with something, and I said, "All right, here's me moment." All right, seriously. I gave him the Myndfit card, and I said, "Look,
what a friend though. What a friend, and that's what a best friend does. Is they do the I love you enough to challenge you and to push you and to want better for you. I don't care if you're going to hate me for it or tell me to fuck off. I'm still gonna challenge you. Where a nice friend will just enable you and go, oh yeah, you're right. Here's a bust, or oh poor you. Here, have another beer. And that speaks volumes about who you both are, but about the state of your friendship is you've got that accountability for each other. Let's keep each other accountable, and I think that's just amazing.
100%. Yeah.
Well, when you start doing the work on yourself, you're obviously more, like you said, aware of what you're doing, and then because you're more aware of that, you can see what other people are doing, and it means nothing again. If he wasn't open to it, then it would have been just shut off. So he was definitely open to it to better yourself and feel better. You knew that there was a better way because you'd seen what I'd been doing. And but if he wasn't open to it, that would be the end of the story.
The first hurt.
Did you call Chris, or did your Danny have to make the appointment for you as well?
Well,
I'm never going to live that down.
No, there is a little bit more to the story though too, because I was still procrastinating about it, even after Cam gave me the card, and I thought about it, and then myself and my wife both sat down one night, and we were both having a bit of a moment. I can't remember what was going on now, but I actually mentioned it to Danny as well and said, "Oh look, Cam's given me this card. Maybe this is a good time for us to make this, improve this shit that's going on, because we clearly both sort of can be a lot better than what we are at the moment." And
I'll never forget how Danny explained it to you, because I think she rang Nick, and then she messaged you saying, "Oh, Nick, the anxiety bloke's going to give you a ring." I'm like, oh, this is perfect. You're gonna love this.
Yeah. So
the anxiety bloke.
Right. It sounds like a shitty superhero who's anxious about everything, trying to save people.
Yeah. There was definitely a few
anxiety man.
Up and away, I think.
but not too high. But not too high. Because I might die. I think that's what we're all like. I mean, obviously, my experience with anxiety was crippled me. It was my kryptonite. The way that my mind was acting, my imagination. That's our we have these superpowers, but they become our kryptonite when they go past that healthy point. So I saw it in myself. My mind was running away. It wasn't present. It was getting up to so much no good, and I can see it in all the clients that pop in and reflect it to them without any judgment and help them to see it pretty quickly. But it's amazing when you guys can start seeing your own distortions, and then you start seeing it in everyone else. You're like, oh, it's everywhere, and then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, everyone has to go and do this. I'm like, no, just keep doing it yourself, practice it, embody it, live and breathe it. If anyone needs to do it, they'll see it in you, and don't go and push this onto other people. Don't be Myndfit pushers.
That's me. Myndfit push. Yeah, that's
In a back alley with
Hey, man,
Myndfit cards. Boy, mate, you want some of these? You want some of these? You look a little bit depressed, mate. Go see Anxiety Bloke.
it's
It's the anxiety bloke.
funny when you actually walk through the doors, though, when you're there for one issue and you think that's the end of it, but it opens so many other doors, and you realize pretty quick that it's not just anxiety or one problem. It's a full life change. Like it's amazing how much this has helped me and Cam through situations at work, life, everything. Just
it's like a barn find, you know. Chris comes in, he's like a car that's been found in the barn, and you know, he thinks that all it needs is a bit of a service. You lift the bonnet up, and there's a family of raccoons in there, and there's it's just the tires have been chewed out, and there's no blood. It's just like, all right, and he goes, yeah, I just need a tune up. And you're like, yeah, right, yeah, sure you do, buddy.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
I'm just so interested in, especially for us guys, it's kind of, it takes such a time and a tipping point for us to finally, book in and go see someone. And I think, it doesn't have to be that way, because I know, Nick, you would do, I don't know if this would be your discovery session, but most places would do, whether it's a phone call, a Zoom meeting, or going in person, doesn't have to be a full-on like first therapy session, but you can generally go in and just talk to someone and find out what they're about, and maybe tell them a little bit about what's going on for you. And I know for us, at the center, when we would do the initial consultations, which was kind of that same thing, everyone's stress and anxiety and fears about getting help for their mental or emotional health all of a sudden calm down, because they realize they're speaking to another human who's more likely than not been through something similar to them and overcome it. And it makes therapy, that word, much less scary than what it was before, and a lot more open. So I just encourage people listening that you can generally just have a chat to someone, 15, 20 minutes, and you can get a feel for whether you feel safe with that person and you want to move forward. And generally you will.
Cam, you were saying that you tried a lot of things in the past, and that helped to some degree, and I've got so many clients at the moment, once again, saying that they've been seeing someone and there's just no rapport there. It's too clinical for them. So what was the difference for you in what had you tried in the past, and you obviously knew that on some level you had to do some work, and you put your feelers out there and dipped your toe a few times. What did you try, and what was different this time?
Well, I tried a lot of psychologists over the years, and GPs, and they just put you on antidepressants straight away without many questions, and go see a psychologist, which, don't get me wrong, there's definitely a place for both those things for some people. But I think the medication was more of a Band-Aid, and probably made me more spaghetti brain, where I'd tried a bunch of different ones and had enough sense to come off and try and do the work myself. But again, that doesn't work for everyone. But also I got to a point where I felt that bad. I'm like, I need to go see a psychiatrist. I need to step it up a bit. And seeing a psychiatrist, which is someone that can prescribe drugs to you, was probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had when it comes to my mental health, because I really just felt like I was just shipped in and shipped out and just told to go on these drugs and you'll feel better. And so it literally did nothing for my foundations or my fundamental pillars. So if I was to compare psychology or psychiatrists, where you go in, talk about your problems, which can feel great to get things off your chest, and it's awesome, things that did or didn't happen for you in your life. But then coming into Myndfit, I had no idea that it was a different way where I could I didn't have to go in and sit down with Nick and say, look, Nick, this is my story. This is what did happen to me. This is what didn't happen for me. I didn't have to do that. And I was kind of shocked. And we basically went straight into, how everything looks up on the whiteboard. And I'd say, yeah, that happens to me. And then I start getting tools to be able to help me out of those dark holes or anxiety or whatever it might be. So it's literally something that you can use straight off the bat, and not sit in your pity party and go, oh, I'm sad because of this or whatever.
I love it when a client tries to invite me to a pity party. There you go. But you did, and so in the discovery session, I do want to learn a bit about your story, but not because of what the story is necessarily, but because how you've been affected or not affected by it or whatever. So, and I want to validate, what you've experienced and what you're feeling as a result of that. But then we sort of park it and go, all right, but we don't have to keep living that narrative. There's so much value in that experience for you. Let's find all the value and let's extract it all and become a better person for having been through that. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys without my stuff, and Haas wouldn't be sitting here without his, a day and a half in jail. It's just
it's more like 2 days.
We need to.
Okay. The last 12 hours was the hard time.
Yeah. So, but that's what happens to me. In my experience, going and getting help, it was pills and medication and tell me your story and okay, this psychologist didn't work, so go to the next one, tell me your story again, and you get sick of telling your story. And it actually just deepens it all for you, and reinforces it all. So, I think
it brings up and you stay there. Nick showed me how to, let go from certain things and move on, like actual, like physical tools to use to get out of that space, and it works much better than sitting in that space and then you feel crap.
How did you feel after seeing that psychiatrist? Like, how were you feeling disheartened after that session?
Mate, I felt like I'd gone to the top and I had no idea what else to do. Like, he was, if I was to be blunt, he was a real dick. like I was pretty vulnerable, and there's a certain way, I guess, he could have gone about it. But I literally left that, and like you pay a lot of money to see these people, and you're literally getting nothing out of it except for, you got to be on more pills or don't take this and take that. And it didn't help. So I did get to a point where I'm like, I saw the doctor that recommended me to him. I walked out on him. I said, mate, all your drugs, they don't fucking work. They just make me feel different. Mm-hmm. They don't help me. So I chucked them all in the bin and stopped taking them. I started seeing a different psychologist who started me on the path of sort of what Nick teaches, which I was grateful for. But then I knew I had to go a bit further, which was when I was on a search for someone like Nick, because I felt good when I come off any medications and things like that. And once I started seeing Nick, I knew this is what works for me.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. It's like any profession, like even tradies, there's good ones and bad ones, there's shit ones and skilled ones, and that happens with psychiatry, psychology, and that kind of thing. But it's a story that I hear a lot, and it's like when we just go down the path of the system and those referral pathways, it's like GP, medication, psychologist, psychiatrist, and when oftentimes we tick all those boxes, and then it is really that disheartened feeling, because it's like, well, if I've done all that and I still feel like shit. And the thing is, most people don't understand that there are there's different options out there. So, I encourage people listening who've maybe been down that path, start having a look online at some alternate options, because it sounds like, you guys obviously, and from your story, Cam, obviously great that you're able to find Nick amongst all of the other stuff.
Well, the funny thing the funny thing is I would get that help, like I said, reactively. And by that time I was in the best way to describe it was like a state of depression. But realistically, my problem was high anxiety. So I'd get highly anxious and not know how to deal with it. And over time, that as you know, that takes a lot of energy to be anxious all the time. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling absolutely wrecked. Depression, as some people would see it. But the problem was high anxiety would put me into I'd just be absolutely tired and want to sleep all weekend.
Yeah.
So doctors would put me on something that would, make me up, but because I was depressed. But realistically, the problem was I was up all the time, like too heightened.
And once that was worn out, then you'd get depressed. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I'd get depressed. So then when I'd feel good again, I'd be heightened and be on these uppers. So I'd be like fucking crazy, wouldn't I? Like I'd just be all over the place. And it looked great on the outside. It was funny and everything. But inside I was wired and feeling horrible. And then you'd crash again. So if we'd worked that out first and used tools for anxiety, I'll never get down that dark hole again.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way of describing it, mate. And I think a lot of listeners will really resonate with that as well. And we sit here, and once again, we have to be so mindful and cautious of what I do isn't a magic pill and a magic wand or the best therapy in the world. What Haas does isn't the best in the world. It's just we do our thing and it works. We do our thing and it's effective and I think the results speak for themselves. But I think we're outside of that mainstream system. And I think what's different in here is that on your journey, Cam, there was no compassion, and I think that was the missing link in it. There was no understanding. Like you're a man in suffering and going, I'm in suffering. I need someone to help me because I'm in suffering. And everyone's like, yeah, this will make you feel better. That'll make you feel better. That'll make you feel better. But there was no let's actually sit with you and care about you. If that makes sense. Like you said, you got shipped in and shipped out. Like for someone in suffering who, imagine, and it's in the medical system as well, emergency rooms and hospitals and all that, so there's, and it's a lot of the time it's not the clinician's fault because it's the way the system's set up. So thankfully, there's a lot of work being done on changing the system and lived experience practitioners are going to be a bigger part of that system moving forward. But there's still going to be shitty lived experience practitioners. I know of some that you go and see and they haven't quite done the work on themselves. So they just, they make it all about them in a non-helpful way. So, I think for listeners out there, it's about taking that holistic approach. Try some Reiki, try some kinesiology, try some of this, try some of that, and see what works and what. I know a lot of people don't like sitting in a room talking about things, so they'll go and try different approaches. But you found what worked for you, and that's the main thing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I love it,
Exactly.
Lads.
I've said to you before, Nick, when it comes to people in sort of your field of work, you've got sort of the two types of people: yourself, where you live and breathe it, and you've walked a mile in someone else's shoes. Whereas then you've got some other people that it's just a job. They've got the certificate on the wall. They've gone to uni. They know a bit, but there's a missing pillar there. And it really does show when you go and sort of talk to these people. You can tell that there's something missing.
Yeah.
So
I've got to stop walking a mile in people's shoes because I keep getting arrested for stealing people's shoes. So
don't encourage him with laughter, boys. That's no good.
Yes, bring it. See, bring it, boys. Bring it.
Look at him. His anxiety bloke feeds on it. Feeds on the laughter of shit-ass jokes.
It's such an oxymoron. Like it's the Sultan of Still and Anxiety Man.
Together, they're the beautiful synthesis of life.
Yeah.
Lads, we're coming up on an hour, so I wanted to finish up by asking you both. I'll put you on the spot a little bit, and for listeners out there, just give me one thing in terms of kind of your growth, your mental and emotional growth, becoming better men. What's one thing that really helped, whether it's a tool, a resource, a reframe, something that you worked on, but what's one thing? An epiphany. Just one from each of you boys. I'd love to know something out there, just for the listeners to know.
Well, one of the biggest things for me was probably the fact that before seeing Nick, I used to live in the fast lane. I was always 2 steps ahead of every situation that I was in. I was always thinking way forward. So, yeah, at the moment, and hopefully going forward, I try to live more in the present moment and listen to people and try and learn from people and just sort of stay a bit grounded. And yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things that I've got in life now, is the fact that I actually can enjoy the present moment rather than looking at what's happening next week or tomorrow or in the next hour. It's, yeah, just staying grounded, I think.
Amazing. And you won't know whether you're going to keep doing it because you don't think that far ahead now. It's
yeah, good point.
Cam, what about you, mate?
For me, it definitely all boils down to awareness, and whether that's, sitting between stimulus and response, that awareness there, or awareness through meditation, which, I've developed my own meditation practices through this, and Nick's helped me along the way with that. And just being aware of certain things, like it helps with anything, whether it's awareness about a limiting belief, whether it's awareness about a habit that you didn't realize doesn't serve you anymore. It just all boils down to that awareness.
And what does your meditation practice look like at the minute? What's working for you?
Oh, hang on, before I answer that, Cam, remember I said I had a client who had done like 100 days meditation in a row. He was turning up when we're doing the online meditation. And he'd sit in his car out the front of work and he'd do his meditation there. And this is the guy. This is who I was speaking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meditation man.
Yeah. Meditation man, anxiety guy, beard guy.
The present person.
Present person.
Isn't it?
We'll work on the branding for that. But
present person, Santa.
Did you say Santa?
Santa?
It's like some politically correct Santa, like someone got fucking offended by the term Santa, so now they got to call him present person in their house.
It's non-binary.
Non-binary, yeah. It's no colors. He represents Coca-Cola, the commercialized Santa. We call him present person. Dressed all in black. So yeah, Cam, what's your meditation practice look like at the minute?
Well, I think one of the first sessions with Nick, I said I effing hate mornings. I hated getting up in the morning. I'd struggle. That's when everything would flood my brain, anxieties, everything what I got to do today, what's going to happen, what's not going to happen for me. So I'd really struggle getting up in the mornings, and I would normally just get up, hit snooze, get up, quickly go to work. But now it's more mindful and slow. I'll get up, have a meditation space where I sit there, and at the start I was doing like 40 minutes, half an hour. Now I do about 20 minutes every morning, and then I get up, have breakfast, enjoy having a green tea, get ready for the day. The kids get up, we have a chat, and starting the day like that, you compare it to the end of the day, it's so much better. You're just more lighter, and it helps you be more aware and mindful throughout the day.
Well, you're setting the tone for the day in the morning, aren't you? And if you think about the energy of hitting snooze all the time and then getting up and rushing, look, if you're hitting snooze in bed, it's like you're saying no to life. Because like when we wake up and get out of bed, we're about to engage with life, and you're like, no, not yet, not yet. And then you do get up and you're rushing and you go off to work. And like that's the theme for my day. Whereas like, you know, sitting in stillness with yourself for 20 minutes, then mindfully having breakfast, what a different tone that is for the whole day.
It is.
Well, if you're hitting snooze, you're entering immediately into suffering. You're starting the day in suffering because you've got an aversion to life. You've got an aversion to the I don't want, you know, and it's immediately triggering you to go no, and so it's going to be very difficult to pull yourself back out of that.
It is. You get stuck in that. So. You get stuck in that feedback loop where you're like, oh, you idiot, you press snooze, just get up next one. And then you press snooze again, you're like, oh, you idiot, you fucking press snooze again. And then you keep doing it, and it compounds.
Oh, it's so
labeling.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Lads, this has been unreal. I've loved this chat. I think the listeners are going to love this chat. I love both of your guys' story, and I'm really looking forward to connecting more and seeing where you guys go from here with life and everything. And I just want to say I appreciate you both for coming on today. It's been a bit amazing.
Oh, thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. It's been good.
Woo!
I know Chris went into some unnecessary suffering about thinking about coming on the show. So you did great, mate. You seemed very present and good job.
I said to myself as I was driving to Cam's house this morning, I'll let go of what the outcome was going to be.
Right.
So I just went with it and knew that it would all unfold.
What will be.
As it needs to.
And it did.
It did.
Who would have thought when we trust life, it works out okay? Who would have thought? All right, thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. This is present person, anxiety bloke, meditation man. I don't know what the fuck I am, but I'll think of something for next week. See you later.
Guys.
Thank you.